Yo, 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 what is going on, YouTube? We are back with another banger. Stay all the way to the end because in this video I'm going to be talking about mindset. The mindset you need to live the dreams that you have for yourself in real time. So many times in life we hold ourselves back, right? We hold ourselves back from becoming the person that we know we are deep down because we don't believe in ourselves, we don't take risks, and we're not willing to oftentimes take a leap of faith into the unknown. You know, when I originally got into my fitness coaching business, I didn't believe fully in myself that I could make the business work, that I knew all the things that I needed. And it took a bunch of going into the unknown. And I think this can carry over into all avenues of your life, truly. So I think if you stay all the way to the end of this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can also apply this into different avenues, even if you don't have a business. But for myself, I had to take multiple risks when starting this business. The first risk I had to take was after getting let go from my in-person job. I had to believe in myself, number one, and the second thing I had to do was I had to invest into mentorship. I had to invest into other business professionals, some sorts of people that knew what they were doing, and I had to trust that they actually knew what they were doing, and they weren't just going to take my money, but they were going to help me get there. And things started to slowly but surely unfold for me. The next thing I did was took a risk, towards opening up business and specifically targeting the people that I want to work with, right? Like, I'm sure you guys know this, but you can't just work with everybody. Like, you have to find a specific demographic. And for myself, the people that I wanted to work with were people that were motivated, people that were inspired, and people that actually wanted to make real results. And so, unfortunately, as much as I love all of the clients I've worked with and I've loved to work with all of them, I had to let some people go. I had to tell some people that they just weren't a good fit because they weren't willing to do the hard work and take the consistent action. And so I had to unfortunately let these people know, like, hey, like, we're not gonna be able to work together anymore. I just don't see it working out, and I want to be able to give the best service possible. And you don't seem to be taking this as serious as I do, so we're gonna have to part ways. And unfortunately, that's just the way that things went. But on the flip side of that, what I was able to do was attract more people into my business and be able to work with more people that were motivated, inspired, and ready to take action. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. And of course, I'm a coach, so I hold these clients, accountable, and I help push them. But there are some people that just weren't a good fit. So that's the next thing I had to do, right? But when I did that, things started to open up for me, for sure. And the next thing I did was I started to understand that in order for me to build the business that I wanted, I had to let the Lord in because I wanted the business to be solely about, myself helping other people with their fitness. But when I talked to the Lord about it, He told me that, like, what He wanted for me was, to be able to help people come to know Him, right? And so the next thing I had to do was tap into, my faith and start to bring Christian, like, bring Christians into my business. Meaning, like, the intention of my business now is not just to help people achieve their ideal physique, but to help them come to know Jesus, right? And that was a risk because I'm like, well, I don't want to push people away, which of course I'm still open to working with, really whoever, but like that's my intention of, like, specifically working with a type of individual that I can genuinely help and bring to know the Lord, right? And when I started to focus more and more on these specifics of who I wanted to help, how I wanted to help them, God started to give me the wisdom, right? And the understanding of how to do these things. I also started to realize that, living in the area I was living just wasn't suiting me. And so I had to make necessary steps and decide where I wanted to build this business, right? And just working as an in-person trainer and managing this business wasn't working out. And so I had to step away from that position. And ultimately, when I did that, things started to open up. The next thing I did was, start to just take more action. For the longest time, I thought that everything was just going to be handed to me. And as much as I didn't think of it at the time in that light, that's truly what happened is I just thought that everything was going to pan out. And it didn't. And I had like a reality check, like a slap in the face, if you will, maybe like 5 slaps in the face. And I realized that, like, dude, like, this business is not going to get off the ground unless you actually take action So I took action by investing into the mentorship program that I got involved with, connecting with other like-minded individuals, working with coaches in not just business, but also in the fitness space, and learning more than I already knew at the time, right? And like I think, especially at some point in your life, we get this ego, right? And for me, I had this ego of like, okay, I've been working in fitness for over 12 years, 13 years now. Like I don't need to invest into a fitness coach. I already know everything, right? But what that does, that mindset, is it caps your potential and your growth. And so I wanted to give back to my clients more and more. And the next thing I had to do was not just structuring the business accordingly, but also getting more knowledge around the fitness and how I could help people with overcoming more issues they're running into, right? Because I think when, like in the Bible, it says like store, like a wise man stores of knowledge, right? And it says a fool, shuns discernment, right? Which is basically like discernment is like how you judge and how you see things, right? And so for me, when I started to tap into other resources, other coaches in the space to give me information and help me expedite the process of me working around the things I was dealing with my injuries and whatnot in the past, and also seeing physical therapists, working with clients, that all gave me the ability, the tools to be able to help more people overcome these injuries and these issues that they're now, able to prevent and overcome. And I think that those are some of the biggest moves I made. The next thing I did was I went to a business mastermind where, I really started to see my full potential unfold. And I realized when I got around these guys in person that they were no different than me. And also, I realized that there were a lot of missing pieces that I didn't have in my business that was holding me back from cultivating the business I wanted. And so that allowed me to realize that, my next best move was to get around people with similar goals, with similar visions. Like I have one or two people in my life that are on the same mission as me to become entrepreneurs, to be business owners. But with the exception of those people, like in my immediate circle, most of the people around me, unfortunately, just didn't see the same vision. And so I realized that I had to get further and further away from those people and closer to, number one, the Lord, but to give me the wisdom. But number two, you know, the people that were also on the same wavelength as me, trying to do the same things. And not to say that I'm better than anybody else, but when I was, surrounded by people that were just working regular jobs and were working towards, just for the weekend, really, like working to get away from work, I realized that like this wasn't suiting me or benefiting me in any way. And so what I had to do, I used to think of it as unfortunately, but now it's really fortunately because it's for the best. I had to separate myself from certain individuals, like certain relationships, unfortunately had to end. Certain friendships had to end. Certain partnerships with other business owners in the past that I worked next to had to end, all for this to be able to bear fruit. And as I trusted more and more in Jesus, and I started to ask Him for the next steps, and I also started to understand what I wanted for my business, I realized that like I didn't want to build something that I didn't feel was aligned with my vision. I wanted to make sure that what I was building was aligned with my true purpose, my true vision, and also like what God wants for me, right? And so when I started to do these things, everything started to open up, and business started to improve. And as much as I'm still nowhere near my potential, the answers started to open up because I started to ask from the Lord, like what the next steps were. And He started to give me resources, opportunities, and I just grabbed them. And I think so many people, we hold ourselves back because we don't think that it's possible to start a business. We don't think it's possible to achieve success. And I know that my channel is primarily for fitness, for helping people, but I also like to really, speak on mindset, because mindset holds so many people back. And mindset, on the contrary, also advances people's lives so many times. And like for myself, I have a very good friend that helped me get into a better mindset, and he is actually a mindset and mentor coach. And he gave me the insights into how to be able to create the business that I wanted, and also the life that I wanted. And that's something that I've been able to now pour into my clients and help them with. And the clients of mine that have faced certain difficulties in life, I've been able to help them overcome these things. And so getting around him, getting around other individuals in the space and people that had these positive ways of thinking about life, it expanded my horizon. And ultimately, I had to step away from the people that were on the opposite side, because as much as it's sad to say, like, a lot of people have negative mindsets. A lot of people don't believe in you, and they don't, support your goals. And even if they're not intentionally trying to put you down, I think 99% of the people that put you down are not intentionally trying to do it, but they just have these skewed mindsets, these limiting beliefs, these restraints, these mental burdens that hold them back from thinking it's possible, and so they don't believe in themselves. Therefore, that carries over into you and what they put out against you, or say against you, or say to you, right? And so stepping away from these people and not associating with them anymore, not communicating with people that had, belief systems that didn't align with myself, and instead replacing with people that had uplifting thought patterns, had big visions, started to allow me to, build the business I wanted. And I had to also realize that, like, building the business, primarily 95% of it was my environment and how I shaped my environment. Like, for the longest time, I couldn't get my business up off the ground, and I never understood why. I never understood, like, why it was so hard to, take the next steps in my business. And it was truly because of my environment, internal and external. In my internal environment, I had negative thought patterns. I wasn't learning and expanding my mind. I also wasn't, putting myself in a position where I could grow, right? So what I had to do was I had to shape my mindset, and also to shape my physical environment around the success I was looking to cultivate for my business, for my life, for my career. So that looked like going into a deep cleanse of my nutrition. Like, what foods am I eating that are not suiting me? Like, when I was eating these processed foods, and when I say processed foods, yes, for a while I used to eat junk food and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But also, it was a lot of what people deem as, like, healthy foods that, like, just weren't suiting me. And so, like, I had to go into a position of, like, now I'm eating organic foods, quality foods. I'm not eating all these excess processed things. Um, I'm not drinking, freaking Dunkin' iced coffee, like all this sort of stuff, right? Which is filled with sugar, and the sugar causes anxiety in your brain and causes, like, all this fear and doubt, like. And then also, like, just cutting out, like, the BS, like eating the once in a while junk food, like, that truly doesn't benefit your life in any way. Like, cutting out all that stuff and just eating, like, organic whole foods. That was the biggest step for me. Starting to eat, like, real foods, right? Um, the next thing was really starting to get my environment back. So, like, cutting out all the vices, like, to be super transparent. Like, no longer drinking alcohol, doing these sorts of things. Even though I only would occasionally, like, cutting all of it out, like, entirely, right? And instead, eating the quality foods, exercising, going on walks, getting natural endorphins, right? Like, reading books, listening to podcasts and audiobooks, and uplifting music, right? Like, cutting out, like, the secular music, right? Like, reading my Bible daily, praying and talking with the Lord, like, fasting, all of these things, going back to church, like, consistently, like, talking with Jesus, like, these things are what opened my life up and allowed me to start creating the life that I wanted for myself. And that was possible all along, but I was holding myself back because I wasn't thinking it was a big deal. And I was thinking, like, oh, it's not a big deal, like, I'm not continue doing these things. And you're in this cycle, this looped cycle, just, like, wasting time, not being productive, not being efficient with your time. And when I started to actually just make these changes and shifts, everything opened up tenfold, and it happened, like, rapidly. And I think that so many people hold themselves back, and they don't think that it's possible. And a lot of the reason they don't think it's possible is because they have the wrong way of thinking, and they're also setting themselves up for failure. They're eating the wrong foods. They're eating, foods that don't give them peace and that aren't organic. And not to say that you need to be perfect, but, like, the major shift I noticed when I switched to the organic eating was not entirely physical. As much as there's been a bunch of benefits I've seen in that department, mostly it's been mental. Like, I don't have the stress, I don't have the limiting beliefs, I don't have the doubts near as much because I cut out these foods that cause that. Like, when you're eating sugar, and for those of you guys that are not aware, like, whether that's actual sugar from candy, which I don't eat much of regardless, but, like, once in a while I would, but mostly it was, like, the carbohydrates. Like, the carbohydrates, especially the starches, like, when you're eating, like, a bacon, egg, and cheese from a breakfast place, or when you're eating, not to say that these things are bad, but regularly, like, I would be at Dunkin' Donuts, or I would, like, be out and about, and I would grab, like, a protein bar, and in the protein bar it had sucralose and these sugars and sweeteners in there. And so when I started to cut out these foods, these beverages, just the consumption of things that were not suiting me, because they were, oftentimes carbohydrates, sugars, things that were not causing me peace. Sugar, there's a lot of research that goes into the fact that sugar causes anxiety in the brain, and it makes your brain scattered and unable to focus clearly. But when I started to like remove these things, everything opened up. My content just started to flow right off the top. I was actually able to think clearly. And doing these sorts of things, just these small changes, these small tweaks that weren't that difficult, but were just felt so difficult because I was in that looped in cycle of these things repetitively. When I started to just remove them and just make adjustments to my life, everything opened up. And then I started to have a clearer vision as to how to get my business off the ground. And I think that like oftentimes we just don't put ourselves in the environment or set ourselves up for success because like I don't know, like we set ourselves up for failure. That's really what it is. But when you can finally set yourself up for success and make these changes, you're going to realize how much greater life improves. Like each and every time in my life when I was eating poor quality choices, like life was so stressful. And it wasn't just that the foods were causing the stress. It was like the food was affecting how my brain worked, and the internal and the external are correlated, right? They're interlapped. And so if you're eating processed foods or you're not exercising, then that's going to make it so that your brain doesn't make rational decisions, and that's going to lead to like every decision, every action you make and take, not being aligned with your goals, and that's what's going to lead to the stress. It's not that the food leads to the stress inherently. It's like the food leads to some of the anxiety in the brain, and then that leads to more and more of you making improper decisions that don't align with your true authentic self, and that's what brings stress. Not having the circumstances you want, not having the business you want, not having the fitness you want. So this is why I'm so big on fitness carries over in all avenues of your life. Like if you can make the changes to eat differently, not better or worse, because I'm a big advocate of like not tying emotion into food, but and if you guys aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, then check out some of my nutritional videos below, and you'll know what I mean there. But like just making different choices that align with your goals, then things are going to open up tenfold, and you're going to see that like, hey, like that business that you want to start is actually possible. That physique that you want to attain is actually more than possible. And all these things are just literally skills. Like people that have good physiques are not genetically gifted. It's as simple as that, bro. People that have physiques that are attainable, that you want, are extremely attainable, but they're not like gifted genetic freaks. Some of them might burn more calories at rest than you. That's fair. But like people don't have these like magical formulas. They're just consistently taking more action. When it comes to having a physique, bro, it's literally math, science, and psychology. Psychology is like how your brain works and how you make these decisions. The science is how many foods, what types of foods you're eating, and the calories going in and out, and the macronutrients you're eating. And then, like the math part is like, are you exercising and burning calories, or are you overeating? Like, it's really not that difficult, bro. The reason that people that have good physiques are in way better shape than people that don't is just because they're making different choices. They have different skills, and skills are literally just compilations of habits acquired over and over and over and are just implemented. And like now you have the skill, and you can use the skill to get the result you want. So if you want six-pack abs, bro, you just need consistent habits, eating the right foods that align with your goals, and then you have the result. And like how are habits built? Well, you just take consistent actions, and the actions are all stemmed from mindset. So if you're eating improper foods that don't give you like the free thinking, free clarity in your brain, it's gonna be tough, bro. But people that have good physiques, people that are financially successful, people that have careers, they're not any different than you watching on the other side of the screen. They just literally make choices differently. And if you're somebody that's watching that has these things, and you know what I'm talking about, like you just make different decisions than the person next to you. And that's why you have the result. But so many people believe that like, oh, like he just has good genetics or he has good, luck. Like, bro, that stuff doesn't exist. You're just making excuses and masking up the real issue. So start to make real changes and your life will open up tenfold. Because if you can understand that what I just said, your mind and your body are correlated and are, intertwined, then you're going to start to make different decisions based on how your body performs. And it's a lot easier to make rational decisions when you have a brain that's not filled with all this stress and anxiety all the time. And like people take medications, like they do these things to try to decrease their stress, which ultimately makes it worse. Like drugs, medications, smoking marijuana, like all these things that like alcohol that like people think is gonna like decrease stress, nicotine, like bro, it makes it worse. Like it might provide you a temporary, satisfaction, but in the long term, it's making it worse, and now you're more dependent on these things. And like for me, I've been caught in situations before where I used to drink alcohol once in a while, going out with friends or whatever, and it's like, bro, it never brings you fulfillment, and you're just quickly like solving the issue, but then like later on the line, you're gonna have more of this like now you have to recover from it and get dialed back in again. And so like when you can make the necessary tweaks to your nutrition, to your exercise, to your lifestyle, like everything's gonna open up, and you're gonna start to realize that it's actually not that difficult to achieve your ideal life. You just have to make different actions. And if you understand that the actions you take all stem from your mindset and your belief patterns and your thought patterns and how you think about yourself, what you consider to be true, and you can also understand that the way you think about yourself and how your brain works is all correlated from the foods you're putting in your body, the internal environment and the external environment, and the actions you take. It's all correlated, bro. So like when you understand these things, it's so much easier to achieve the life you want. You just have to think differently, take different actions. And like this is why I'm so big on, your physical health literally carries over every avenue of your life, because it controls the decisions you make. And yes, of course, you can still take disciplined actions, with eating junk food, but it's going to be a lot more difficult when you have to force yourself because it doesn't feel good. You don't have the natural dopamine from the quality foods, right? So just make different choices. That's all you have to do, dude. And like when you make the choices, you're going to realize how easy it was all along to just become the person that you want to become. So if you want to achieve your ideal physique, if you want to achieve the job you're after, the career you're after, you just want to achieve your ideal life. Like start first by looking at the internal and the external. Like what's going on in your life? Are you setting yourself up for success, or are you setting yourself up for failure? Because I can guarantee you, dude, brother, sister, whoever's watching this video, I can guarantee you that the reason you are where you are is because of your consistent habits and actions. And the habits are stemmed from your actions over and over and over repetitively. And if you want to take your life to the next level, you need to understand that the habits you have consistently lead into the skills, and the skills you have are determining the results you have in your life with every avenue of your life. And so if you want different results, then you need different skills. And the best way to get different skills is to take different actions that lead to your habits. And the easiest way to take consistent action and do the right things is to have awareness around what the actions are you need to be taking, and also how to hold yourself accountable. And the easiest way to hold yourself accountable and to have the consistent actions is to have a different way of thinking about yourself. And the easiest way to have a different way of thinking about yourself is to take, mental notes around where you are in your life. And so like that starts with thought patterns, belief systems. And so if you set yourself up for success by eating quality food, it's going to be a lot easier to achieve the skills, the results you want in your life. But people aren't going to talk about that on YouTube, except John Stroud. He's going to tell you the sauce. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Check me out on Instagram at JStroudFit if you want more info on this, or like the short term or short form like BTS, which for those of you guys living under a rock, BTS means behind the scenes. Blah. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you make changes, because if you don't make the changes now, then you're going to have regret later on in life, and regret leads to feelings of unsatisfaction, lack of fulfillment, and you don't want that, dude. You want to achieve your ideal physique, you want to achieve your ideal life, you want the success, the career, everything, you want the relationships, and it all starts with your mindset, bro. How your subconscious and your conscious brain intertwine and work together. And you can't say you don't want these things. Every person on earth wants the life that they want, the best possible version of themselves, but they're just either A, making an excuse and masking over the problems and saying like, I don't actually want that, because they're lazy and they're not willing to make a change, or they aren't aware that they don't have what they don't want, or they don't have what they want. You know what I'm saying? So just, bro, become the person. It's not that difficult, bro. Please just make the change. Because, bro, it doesn't bother me if you don't make the change. I guess people all the time, and they're like, oh, I want to lose weight. It's like, okay, bro, like, wait, here's the sauce. Like, do these things. And they're like, well, I don't want it that bad. It's like, okay, bro. Like, I can't force you to lose the weight, bro. But if you want it bad enough, you can do it. You just need the information, and you need the accountability, and you need to be aware of these things. And like, for anybody watching this video, like, I know that you want better for yourself, and I want better for yourself, but it doesn't affect me if you don't achieve your ideal life. But I would love to inspire people and encourage people to go after it, because I know how it feels to not have these things, to not have the life you want, and to feel miserable about yourself because you know that you're leaving potential on the table. So like, just become that person. And at the same time, as much as it doesn't affect me, it also doesn't put my life down in any way. If you do become the best possible version of yourself, if you become better than me, if you achieve more, amass more success than me, like, that's great, bro. I'm excited for you. Like, why would I ever be like, man, like, truly the people that are jealous about you becoming the best possible version of yourself are just people that are scared that you're gonna do better than them. And like, that's masked from insecurity. So like, this is why my channel, I'm so inspired to just motivate you guys, because I didn't have, growing up, this motivation, this inspiration to become the best possible version of myself. And every time I tried to ask somebody else for their insight, you know, they would tell me like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. Like, just be content with what you have. It's like, bro, but I want more. I know I have more that I'm capable of. So I want to be that person to inspire and motivate all of you guys watching this video. Now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, check me out on Instagram at JStriveFit, and stay tuned for content like this. This is the first video with my mic, so we're going to see how content sounds. Let me know in the comments if the mic was a good move or not. Nonetheless, I'm going to continue using it for probably all, if not most, of my videos. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.